congratulations. This was what I haven't seen you in 2 months. This was been 3 months. When was November? God, it only might have been only 30 days. It feels like forever.
Yeah,
So, congratulations.
probably
I
about a
mean,
month.
I had no doubt that, you would win, but it just means a lot. And I know that you're probably like, where does her crazy support come from? I think it's super, super important that people who look like me and you are represented, but then also understand that you have like folks who are here to support you, whether it's monetarily, whether it's bringing awareness to something that you're doing. So, first things first, congratulations. I'm so, so proud. So, so proud.
Thank you. Of course, much appreciated. I always appreciate your support, and I look forward to working with you to help move cannabis forward, and especially Maryland cannabis.
Oh yeah. I mean, Laurel's a cannabis haven, as you said. I mean, y'all got movers and shakers down there. There are things that's happening as it relates to cannabis. But let's talk about what this means for you. Like, what does this look like for you? What's next? I feel like this is exclusive. What's next?
What's next? Well, I would say, are we talking about in the role of a cannabis advocate, or are we talking about with the new role, the new elected role necessarily?
There we go. You can start wherever you can start. That's my timer. Wherever
Okay,
you feel is good. And I'll have somebody edit this. Don't worry.
I got you. No worries. So as far as being elected, still very new to the role. Of course, I think I mentioned last time, that I would be the sixth person. So I spoke it into existence. So now the sixth person of color, to be on the city council in our town of Laurel, a beautiful city. And that's pretty monumental because, like I said, Laurel's been a city for over 150 years now, and right now the youngest. So I think that that's important because diversity of thought. And one of the things that I mentioned is not just the fact that we have a young council, but we have new council members. So there's another new council member. He's only a year or two older than me, and then another council member who I think is a year older than me. So we might have one of the youngest city councils, in the state of Maryland. So that's very exciting to work with these energetic figures, who really want to move the city forward. But as far as myself, of course, I'm working on a toy giveaway, so I'm always trying to figure out ways to get involved with the community. We did a trunk or treat with Summerlin Place Apartments. It's where I used to live as a kid, so we did a trunk or treat for them, and Greenpoint actually supported the candy for that event, and
Nice.
they're actually one of the sponsors for the toy drive, along with other sponsors. But one thing that I'm doing is just reaching out to um, the local cannabis community to make sure that they're really a part of the community, and that they not only just come and do business and leave the city, but that they give back to the city, give back to the community, and have a real vested interest. And I also think that doing that, you could also help some people with the stigma against cannabis. So, of course, I always try to advocate to different business owners, how can we be more philanthropic? Because I know that obviously, if you give, you will receive. If you give, you
Absolutely.
will receive. So, um, pay it forward. And that's what I always say. But other than that, um, just being active, trying to get through this holiday season. It's a lot of meeting requests and events. So there will be a lot more work in the new year, and you know, I would say more to come. But I'm definitely excited, and of course the legislative session's coming up. So
Mm.
that's like my Super Bowl,
Yeah.
um, or I say like the playoffs. Like, I'm a real policy guy, so the legislative session is where all the work happens. It's where, in Annapolis, your delegates and your senators, they go for 3 months out of the year and decide thousands of laws that affect us, the following year, or subsequent, or subsequent years after that. So the thought is like we need to have input. And one thing that we know is going to be on the table is there's going to be, cannabis bills. There's going to be, quote unquote, criminal justice bills. One of the things that I heard is, recently that I was worried about is that, states that do go recreational or legalized, that, there's some fears that, there's some type of like criminal justice package, but basically it's like more so predatory towards like, teens and youth using, um, using the substance. And of course, care, not cops. I always preach that motto. And even in the city, I want to continue to, mention and explore the idea of, the mobile crisis unit, making sure that we have, a real, mental health, response, component. There's something that exists in Oregon called cahoots. So, nonviolent calls, mental health calls, substance abuse calls, they're handled by, a crisis intervention specialist. They're handled by a psychiatrist. They're handled by EMT. And then of course the police, they can be there, secondary to back up, if needed. But, a lot of times, that helps them because one, it decreases the amount of time they have to deal with petty things that,
Mhm.
for one, police officers shouldn't deal with.
Mhm.
And we know that, the criminal justice system and, the prisons and jails are like a safety net for like mental health. They are one of the biggest mental health providers, but, it is inadequate,
Mhm.
mental health nonetheless. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of plans, and of course, I think that just making sure that we, for me, I want to continue to educate the seniors on the benefits of CBD and hemp, um, because the thought is a lot of times is just getting over the thought of cannabis being terrible. That's that prohibition talk,
Mhm.
and a lot of times, I tell people that, cannabis, hemp, they have so many benefits. Like, do you ever wonder why it is, still illegal in some places, or they fight so hard to keep it illegal? I said, like if hemp flourished, like cotton wouldn't, and that's just the bottom line. If hemp flourished, cotton wouldn't, and you know, um,
That
so
part. That
so so
part. I want to
so,
interrupt
so
you with that
yeah,
part.
exactly. I say cotton is king, hemp is king, but
Mhm.
um one of the things, just encouraging people to explore. Like I met a business owner, he does shirts. So I said, "Oh, have you ever thought about, making hemp organic shirts?" So now that's something that he's looking at, and that's really exciting to think that like he's gonna have more sustainable shirts. One, better quality, um, and yeah, more sustainable shirts. So yeah.
I mean, you gave us a lot in like the last 5 minutes, but I mean, just three things that came to me was, you know, it's important that cannabis companies have a vested interest in community. And I talk all the time about, that is what is missing. And that is what, Explore Maryland Cannabis and all the other entities that I've been building brings, is that sense of community. And, you can't have cannabis without the community, right? That's just what it is. And I think Laurel's done a really good job with kind of fostering that by having, ancillary shops that are doing education, by having those licensee holders who are giving back to the community. They don't have to. They should, but they don't have to. And I think by them having some type of corporate responsibility towards the community will drive their profits much further than, them giving out merch at a local festival, right?
Yeah.
Um, the second thing that you mentioned was legislative session. It sits on our backs. We can't really relax. We get what, a couple of days, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year hits, and it's like, all right, we're waiting for it to start. And just following the bills that entire, 3 to 4 month period kind of it keeps me up at night, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to cannabis legalization and legislation that's being passed. So
Mhm.
I think it's important that folks kind of really pay attention to all the things. We've got an active working group that is doing some work around legalization, but we have advocates who are already planning, you know, protests of some sorts or active acts of protest around making sure that policies that are written for the people get passed. So I just wanted to point out that, and then last but not least, I think that it's important that you have a very good, 360 view of what it looks like to have someone that is have an organization that is vested into the community as it relates and aligns to your values and politics. And I don't think it's of any coincidence that you are of a younger age. And so when you think about what laws and policies have been on the books for so long, it's refreshing to see that change. And I think that's why people are really excited to kind of see new, fresh energy on all of these seats being voted in. So I think that,
Well, let me even mention to that, right? So I don't, it's not a fresh idea, but I'm sure it's an idea that they don't talk about a lot. So I met with the police chief and, some of the higher ups. And one of the things that I had mentioned, and it was very similar to something that I mentioned in the FOP write-in, was that they wanted to increase retention, and they also wanted to, increase, the amount of officers to fill any gaps that they might have. So of course, the idea that I had was, why don't we remove the disqualifier from past marijuana usage, as a disqualifier? Wouldn't that raise retention? I've talked to retired police officers, they love the idea. And the thought is, and you and I probably know, is once it's federally legal, a lot of these police officers would then become, would then be more open about using it, or less cautious about using it, because we know a lot of them are in pain. And we know that's the only thing holding a lot of people back, is of course it being federally legal, and making
Mhm.
sure, one, the banking. The thought is like, sometimes it's harder to own a legal cannabis business than it is to run your business illegally.
Mhm.
If you look at recent news. So the thought is like, how moving forward, are we on a federal level? Because it's important what we do in the state. How on a federal level are we going to support these cannabis businesses? I went to Colorado recently, and it's a great thing because you see a mom and pop shop, but you also see cookies. And if anybody knows anything about cookies, they're the hype beast of they're the hype beast of the cannabis industry, for real. And the thought is they're very brand name. And you have this mom and pop shop, they might only specialize in two strands, but you know, they've been growing for generations. Um, so you know, the thought is I don't even remember where we started, but we definitely have to do more on the federal level. But I was mentioning the fact that removing the disqualifier, because a lot of times, being honest about it or having a past conviction, could be a disqualifier. So
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why, when I think back to my early advocacy days, when I was here in Baltimore and we were fighting for, banning the box on job applications, it was a big push because, there are a lot of folks, if that just was not there, they would be able to get a lot further in life. And I think that, when it comes to automatic expungements, when it comes to, being able to see how other, even just municipalities are doing it, not even states, not even cities, because you have reservations that have legalized, the way that commerce works, the way that it all works together. I think it's important that you start with the education, right? Because you're right, when it becomes federally legal, a lot of folks who have been restricted due to their jobs, due to random drug testing, due to not necessarily being able to place that capital legally there, that's going to open wide, that's just going to bust wide open. So I think that it's important that we empower the folks to understand that there's a wide window for them to be able to access this ecosystem. And also to our I guess folks in the ecosystem, our legislators, our government officials, our police, fire, all of them understanding that like this plant is medicine, right? Especially if it's in a place where it's medically legal. extend a little bit of grace, right? Don't just jump to conclusions. Don't send out a police on a mental health call when it could just be someone having a extreme reaction to too much THC in their system. I know I'm not the only person who's had a green out and has been like, I need to call somebody. I ain't called the police.
But not only not have the police respond, but have a trained professional to deal with, this individual, or or help this individual. So it's just that too. But I know that one of the things you mentioned was automatic expungements. Automatic expungements, awesome. I would always support it. But even to take it a step further, we need to get our brothers and sisters out who are on, still in on cannabis related charges. So retroactive sentencing um, is important as well. And I think that there's a lot of things that we need to push for in Maryland in the next couple months, because you know a little birdie told me that we might see something on the ballot in November. A little birdie. So the thought is we have to decide now what that looks like. And behind the scenes people are putting together framework, and the thought is like you want to be a part of that conversation. For me, I know that we want to make sure that recreational happens for adult use, recreational for responsible adult use. So recreation for responsible adult use, but we also want to make sure automatic expungements, retroactive sentencing, throw that in there, throw the retroactive sentencing in there. I know that that one's probably a push, but throw the retroactive sentencing in there.
Oh
Um,
no, no, no. You have
yeah, right.
to.
If Democratic governor, right? If we get a Democratic governor, it should be no
Lord.
problem, right? We no
This
no problem,
governor's
right?
race.
Right.
Woo.
But we also need to make sure that our brothers and sisters who are most impacted by the war on drugs have a place in the industry, and aren't kept out of the industry, and not just have positions in which they could work in the dispensary, but also have entrepreneurial opportunities afforded to them. So I know that that's something that was being discussed last year, was like a trust. So definitely want to make sure something like that continues. But there's a lot that we can do around equity, and not just equity, but equity and inclusion. So yeah, we definitely need to stay focused, because there's going to be a lot of conversations that happen. Oh, and we need the also the amount of we do want home growth. Yes, we want home growth. Um, we want some, or at least myself, I want some good number of cottage businesses that are allowed. I know last year they couldn't come to an agreement on cottage businesses, which would be micro grows. I know that unlimited is tough to ask for sometimes, but I know that it shouldn't be a low amount. So we gotta come to a good number there. But I know that a lot of people, I heard last year that a lot of people use Colorado as an example of what you don't want, like a saturated market, right? So I will tell you, like, in Colorado, of course there's some struggling businesses, but a lot of people are eating, right? Like there's
Eating good.
more, yeah, eating good, right? Eating good. So there's more dispensaries than there are Starbucks. I think I looked it up. It's 1,012, including recreational and medicinal. Not only that, but they have a very big craft brewery market, almost 600 in the state. So the thought is like it's a booming industry. And I know when it first happened, they were oversaturated. They didn't have enough growers, so they had to contract growers out, from different places to feed the demand.
Hmm.
So but at the end of the day, it's worked itself out now. It's worked itself out now, and that's of course is something to explore moving forward, because I know that a lot of times people use Colorado as an example of something bad that they didn't want to happen here. But I can tell you that Colorado is thriving right now, and I wonder how much they make, like, annually, from taxes from recreational to medicinal. It has to be
It's
astronomical. It
oh
has to be
yeah.
astronomical.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're at the point where they're rolling money back to the municipalities due to the money that they collect just due to cannabis.
Municipalities, not even
Yeah.
the county. Oh my gosh, yeah,
I mean,
they
it's
rolling it.
just it's what our lottery promise was. It was what our casinos were to give to the education system. So I
Hmm.
think cannabis can do that. And there are some similarities between Maryland and Colorado because we have a booming craft beer industry, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah. It's over a little bit over 100 now or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I mean the
Mm-hmm.
hops and terpenes, cannabis is very close cousins to the same plant that is used when you're brewing beer. So I think that, the connection is there. There's also the we don't necessarily want to connect alcohol to cannabis, but I think it's important. I always say I think it's important that people understand the plant at every stage of its life from seed to consumption. So whether or not you're consuming it in an alcoholic beverage or a non-alcoholic beverage, a mocktail, or you're rubbing it on your skin, you're smoking it, whatever it may be, you get a little bit more of a because your body understands, like, okay, I understand that, this is what happened week 20, this is what this is like. So I think all the things that, you mentioned earlier, home grow, cottage industry, no limits. I think that there's a huge issue on the rolling limit, but let's not forget about the medical market. On top of everything that you said, let's not forget about the medical market when it comes to adult use coming into the state. So yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
The
I think,
medical market is great.
yeah.
And I will say that, we have a pretty good medical market. I know that I've been a patient for almost 2 years and I haven't gotten my card. So I know that they need to hire more staff. Absolutely. But the one thing I will say is just looking at it, we need to also increase our decrim limit. We'll have the lowest decrim limit because even if something was to go in effect, like even if something was to happen on the ballot in November 2022, it probably wouldn't go into effect until the following year or something thereafter. But no matter what, decrim, we have the lowest, like one of the lowest decrim thresholds.
It's
So
ridiculous too, especially when in the medical program you're able to have 120 grams, and the decrim limit I think is up to an ounce. So if I'm going to go buy my allotment,
I think decrim limit is less. I thought it was like 10 grams.
they just bumped it up last
Oh,
session, and
they just about to, okay, okay.
we'll confirm that because there was a lot of things that I thought went through but didn't go through. It was also a pandemic, so we can triple
Yeah,
check that.
I'll check on that one. It might have. It might have.
But I mean, even still, an
It was
ounce, like
still
if
low. It was
I
still
want to
low.
go and get a 4 ounces, which is what I'm allotted, and I get pulled over, who's to say they won't throw the book at me? So
Because the
that is a
DC, what is the DC is like
DC. I don't know what DC's decrim limit is, but I know that they have a separate allotment for Maryland patients, which I think is like 117 grams. So then there's another thing. Oh, Martin, you gonna get me on a soapbox, but that
no,
like
no, no.
I'm
We could talk.
traveling, I'm going to a DC dispensary where there's reciprocity. They take my medical card, and then I'm traveling back home in my interstate lines. Has anybody even talked or thought about like that and that protection for patients? I don't think they have, but um
I am not certain. I'm sure there's been some conversation, but I am not certain about that right now.
yeah, that's something that always worries me every time I go. Shout out to Tacoma Wellness. I love stopping through there, but because
Diploma
they like
wellness,
right on the line too. Like I could just
they're a
hop
great
in
job.
and hop back out.
I
Um
agree. I've been there a few times. Tacoma wellness is a great shop.
It is. All right. Well, I don't want to hold you much longer because I know you are a very busy man. Thank you for your time. But before you go, I want you to go ahead, drop the details about the toy drive and anything that we can do. I mean, of course, support you uh, as in your newly elected position, as well as the city of Laurel, because, our organization represents all 22 counties plus Baltimore City, and Laurel happens to be in what, three or four of those counties. So I'll just make
Yes,
sure to tap all of them.
yes. So Prince George's, Montgomery, Howard, and Rundle. Um, yeah, and Montgomery. But I will say that the toy drive, it will be on the 18th. I guess that, yeah, that's a Saturday, noon to 2 at Summerlin Place Apartments. As I said, my old stomping grounds, and we have some great sponsors. Uh, Greenpoint Hemp Haven Wellness Center. Make sure to say the Wellness Center, right? So, if I ever left out the Hemp Haven, make sure it's Hemp Haven Wellness Center, where they have some of the finest CBD products, and I believe they were the first, CBD store in town.
They were.
Definitely a fine little boutique. It's also black owned. So, Yes, yes. And I don't want to forget any other sponsors. Oh, Kiwanis, the Kiwanis Club of Landover, and then also Wealthy Communities. Um, and I just wanted to mention we also have a food drive going on for Elizabeth House. Elizabeth House is the oldest food pantry in the city of Laurel, and the main sponsor for that one is True Wellness. So True Wellness came to me. We This is, I think, the second food drive True Wellness and I did together. Of course, the first one as a councilman at large, but we did one during the campaign that was very successful. And so we're partnering with Rise Up Nutrition, also fine Main Street business, and we're partnering with Elevation Station, another fine Main Street business, and Giant, Giant Food. Partner with Giant Food. Hopefully, I didn't forget anybody, but those are a lot of events we have coming up, and you can drop canned goods or packaged goods at any of these locations. Um, so definitely contribute. Drop a canned good in there. Like I said, Giant, Rise Up, um, True Wellness. True Wellness, they'll also give you an additional discount. So I think they give an extra 5% off if you bring a canned good. So yeah.
Tap into that.
Um,
Tap into that.
yes.
Yes.
But as I mentioned, we have a lot of great um cannabis, CBD, hemp stores where a cannabis haven, as I mentioned earlier, with True Wellness, Greenpoint, CBD Plus, Hemp Haven Wellness Center, Revolution Relief right around the corner, Herbiculture not too far off. So there's definitely, yeah, a lot of great ones. And yeah, Green Life. I think Green Life is going to be leaving us. I don't know if I told you that. So yeah, either I don't know if they're leaving the physical space completely, or they're just going to be doing online delivery. I'm not certain about that, but um, I think they will be leaving Main Streets, which is
Dang, dang.
sad because they were community for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, whatever they have coming up next will be successful. So ain't even worried about it. But I will make sure that this episode will go live within the span of your toy drive and the food pantry work that you're doing. So I'll make sure that those links are there. I also have some other communications, and I'll make sure that it goes out and is shared. And I think I'm
Yes,
gonna do a
food pantry ends this Saturday,
the food pantry ends this Saturday, but the toy drive is through
the 18th,
the
the
18th. Okay.
18th. Mm-hmm.
So I'll get that information out ASAP. And then see if we can do
Flyer.
maybe like a toy drive pickup at the ceremony. I've been trying to figure out a way to have some type of give back component, and we will talk. I'll shoot you some information about that. So
For sure.
anyway, I'll
Yes.
make sure that
Yeah,
whole
I got to go pick up my suit. I got the suit tailored, so hopefully, we celebrate. Hopefully, we celebrating. But
listen,
yeah,
we're gonna celebrate either way. And
it's totally anyway. Understood.
I'm
Understood.
looking forward to it. I need to also figure out. I was just texting my best friends earlier, like I need to figure out what I'm gonna wear. But don't worry. At the point of you closing out about Laurel and all that piece, I'll cut the episode there. But let me just do my outro, and then I'm gonna let you go because I gotta go pitch in like 10 minutes. All right. So Martin, Councilman, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your dedication to the city of Laurel, the cannabis haven of Maryland. We're gonna go ahead and figure out how to put that on a shirt. And all the
Mm.
work that you will continue to
Ooh,
do. Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
come
it.
on now. Think
I,
about it.
I'd help you sell it. I'd help you sell it. Boop, boop, boop,
Hey,
boop.
the profits will go back to you, brother. We ain't even worried about it. Don't
But all I ask is that you continue to invest in the community. All I ask is
absolutely.
that you invest in the community.
Absolutely. That's all we can do. That's all. That's my why. That is absolutely my why. So thank you so much for your time. And like I said, we will do all that we can to support you to make sure that you are successful in your tenure, whatever you have to do, we're here for you. So thank you so much and happy holidays.
Yes, thank you. Have a good one.
Cool. All right. So I'll send you all that information. I have a newsletter going out today here on in the broadcast, so I'm not catching this. So